Hello, I am in beautiful Sanpete County, Utah today. I've just got a few minutes to do this, but I'm in Fairview, Utah, and I want to take you to the grave of Laura Ann Aime, who is the Ted Bundy victim that was just matched up through DNA as being one of his victims within just the last few days. She is buried here in Fairview. She went to high school in North Sanpete High School, which is in Mount Pleasant. She went missing on October 31st, 1974. She was at a Halloween party in Lehi, Utah, and she went missing when she went to the convenience store by herself. Her body was not located until Thanksgiving weekend, so almost an entire month later. And by all accounts, they thought that maybe by that point she had been only dead about a week. So she was alive, most likely between Halloween and November 20th. So 2 to 3 weeks she was alive. Some accounts tell it that she was kept alive by Bundy in American Fort Canyon, which is where her body was located. On Thanksgiving weekend. It was on November 27th, and she was found by a hiker that was there on a date. He had just shown up at the Timpanogos Cave hiking trail that goes up to the cave and decided to traverse the river that was kind of down in the creek and ended up finding her body down in that river. But I wanted to stop by, kind of show you her grave today. My plan is to go to all of the graves of at least the Utah Ted Bundy victims. I have been to them before. I've been to this one before. I came here about 3 years ago. I was here for a funeral and decided to find Laura's grave. But she is buried here. Her grandparents are buried next to her. And I'm going to take you over there. So just to give like a brief rundown, Ted Bundy moved to Utah in late August of 1974. And he had already murdered several young women in the state of Washington and also Oregon earlier that year. His first murder was in February of 1974, first known murder. And then he decided to move to Utah. There are some accounts also that he killed a hitchhiker in Idaho on the way to Utah, but that's never been fully identified. But he did speak of that once. So he gets to Utah. It's in September of 1974, and then he gets here in late August, enrolls in school at law school at the University of Utah. And then in early October is what many think was his first Utah murder, which was Nancy Wilcox. Her body has never been found. There's an audio recording of him talking about killing Nancy Wilcox in Holiday, Utah, in an orchard, and then going back to his apartment that night, and then coming back halfway through the night, recovering her body, and then taking her body down to Capitol Reef, near Capitol Reef National Park. But her body still has never been found. So they haven't been able to fully tie that murder to him as well. Some people think that Nancy wasn't killed by Ted, but there's enough circumstantial evidence that can tie, I believe she was killed by Ted. And then Melissa Smith in Midvale, Utah, went missing on October 18th, so just about 2 weeks later. And her body was found on the 27th near Summit Park, which is up Parley's Canyon, on the way to Park City from Salt Lake City. And then on October 31st, Laura Ann Aime goes missing, and that's whose grave we're going to visit today. And then on November 8th, Deborah Kent was kidnapped from Viewmont High School in Centerville. And the interesting thing about Deborah Kent is her remains were actually located just a few miles from where we are, from where one of his other victims, Laura Ann Aime, is buried. It was in a canyon just up in the hills. I'll kind of flip the car around and I'll show you those hills as we're going over to the grave. I'm going to try to do this all in one take. But her kneecap was found in a canyon near Indianola, which is just a few miles from here. Bundy did talk about Deborah Kent as well and said that he had taken her down there, and subsequently her remains were found. This was after he was executed. He talked about just leading up to his execution, he did some interviews, and he talked about certain victims, and Deborah Kent was one that he said that he had taken her body there. So they were able to locate her kneecap. She is buried. Her remains are buried in the Bountiful City Cemetery. I've been to her grave as well. Nancy Wilcox, who they haven't recovered, who I mentioned, has a headstone in the Murray City Cemetery. Over the next few months, I'll take you and show you these places. It's super duper windy, but I've got sort of a noise canceling microphone. Hopefully you can hear me as I walk over to the grave. But let's go ahead and head over there. As I drive over there, I'm going to go ahead and point to the mountains over by Indianola where Deborah Kent's remains were found. So let's go ahead and put the window down. So this is the Fairview City Cemetery. There's a Pioneer Memorial Cemetery that's down off the hill, but Laura is buried in this one. So I'll zoom in just a little bit. Let me flip around here. You can see the hills. Very pretty area. I'll go ahead and put this outside here a little bit. Very pretty area here. Sanpete County is one of the prettiest places in Utah. So up in those hills, up there is where Deborah Kent was located, just a few miles from where we are. So this is the Fairview City Cemetery that we're going through. And I'll bring you back inside here. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Okay. So basically you kind of enter the cemetery here. And I think we can take our first right. Probably should have cleaned my windshield before this, but we'll get out when we're at the grave so you can see better. Actually, I'll put you out the window so we can have a better view. Okay, so beautiful cemetery. And this is kind of in basically central Utah. And so you're gonna come up around here. And I think last time I was here, there was an angel statue next to her headstone. I'm hoping that's still there. It's very, very cool. Yeah, super windy though. You could probably hear me okay right now, but we'll see how it goes once I get out of the car. So yep, I can see it already. So we're kind of in the center of this cemetery. That's Fairview in the distance. And I go down here, I'll get out of the car and take you over to Laura Ann Aime's grave. It's right there with that black statue on it. Okay, let's get out. All right. All right, so this headstone here, this black headstone, is the grave of Laura Ann Aime. Went missing on October 31st, Halloween of 1974. Murdered by Ted Bundy. We know that for sure now. She had shown signs of strangulation. Bundy also, I've been reading a lot of the police reports. Let me take you over to her grandparents here. Rosalia and James. Those are her grandparents. And this is an aunt, Evelyn Rosalia Aime. So let's go back over here. So she went missing on Halloween. And as I read through the police reports of Melissa Smith and also Laura Ann Aime, it was apparent that Bundy would actually come back to his victims several times after initially murdering them. With Laura, most likely she was alive for several days. And I'm thinking he probably had her tied up in American Fork Canyon in November, which couldn't have been fun. Keep in mind he's going to law school at this same time, so he was a busy guy. He was going to LDS, a Mormon singles ward, also in Salt Lake City during this time. And then it was later on in 1975 that he started. He still lived in Salt Lake, but he would drive to Colorado, and he committed murders in Colorado as well. And he was arrested later on. And I mentioned Debbie Kent. So the same day that Deborah Kent went missing from Viewmont High School, earlier that day, Bundy had kidnapped Carol DeRanch from Fashion Place Mall, which is in Murray, Utah. And Carol DeRanch got away. So later on, when he was arrested, DeRanch actually identified him in a lineup. And we know that later on he escaped from prison twice, once in both times in Colorado, actually. But he committed more murders in Florida after he escaped the second time in Colorado. But because he was off the streets during that interim, Carol DeRanch most likely saved a lot of lives. And I've never spoken with her, but I do know that she's still alive, and there are interviews with her in the Netflix documentary, and there have been a lot of interviews over the years with her. But he would go, in one of the interviews that I read in the police report for Melissa Smith, who was the daughter of the police chief in Midvale, Utah, went missing on October 18th of 1974, found 9 days later. It was apparent that her makeup had been done. One of the questions that the police officers asked her sister when they were interviewing her in the days after they found her was, what type of makeup did she use? Did she do her nails? It looked as though her nails had been freshly done and her makeup had been freshly done. So Bundy not only went back to the body several times, we know this, he would do that in Washington also and in Oregon, but he also would sometimes move the body, sometimes he would do their makeup. Won't go into the details of some of the other things that he did, but most likely he did do that with Laura as well. But Laura's beautiful. You've probably seen pictures of her over the last few days as they've identified her through DNA being linked to Bundy. But that is her headstone here in San Pete County. Well, thanks for watching. I'm going to try to do, like I said, all the Utah victims, and like and subscribe. There will be a lot more of this type of content. I'll end up taking you to where she was found eventually as well, and then where Melissa Smith was found. And Melissa Smith, I'll go into a lot more detail because that's just a few miles actually from where I live. Melissa Smith went missing. So thank you for watching and have a great day.